Welcome. You are at the CCC.
Where there are no outside issues. My name is Anthony. I'm an addict and an alcoholic, another bozo on the bus, and I care about you.
And I'm LouiLou. My pronouns are he and him, and I'm recovering for crystal meth and alcohol, and I am always in search of balance. Yes, and each week we strive to foster a brave space where we can engage in conversations centered around topics of recovery.
And our intention is to hold and inspire better spaces for more people in recovery by tackling issues sometimes used to separate us.
But before we do that, please make sure that you like, share, and rate this episode.
Rate, share, subscribe, tell your friends about us.
Exactly. Do what you got to do.
You know what you have to do. You know, if you've been listening for a while.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You know, we have no one to blame for the introduction being this long. Oh, there it goes. There it goes. And now the disclaimer, the thoughts and opinions expressed on the CCC are ours alone. We do not represent anyone but ourselves. In other words, we're just a couple of friends behind a mic here to entertain you. And of course, everything we talk about is for general information purposes only.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Totally.
Louis, how are you?
I am good. Honestly, it's like this has been, these weeks have been, I'm just trying to go through everything with as much grace as I can. I think I have a tendency to be really empathic when it comes to people that I care about.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of people that I love who are like experiencing those things. And it's putting me in a place of gratitude that I've worked through.
Right.
Don't get me wrong, I have moments where I slip back into, but I think my purpose is to kind of be calm and support people through. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good. So I secured a postdoc. I accepted an offer that I'm very excited about. It was at my first choice
Absolutely
program.
Well, where is it? Or you got to keep it a secret? You have to keep it a secret?
I don't want to say. Yeah. Because the podcast is the podcast, and I don't know that I can affiliate them with the podcast.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah.
Yeah. Congratulations.
I'm very excited. I'll share this much. It is one of the top 5 universities in the world for. Okay,
let's play a game. It's like we're gonna give us a bunch of clues.
Yeah, it's a wonderful university. They're leaders in behavioral science and
Absolutely.
Psychiatry, and I'm very excited. I'm very grateful that they.
Is it in California?
It is in California.
Okay.
Well, that could be a couple schools.
I know. I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you guys there. I'm gonna get you guys.
But I'm very excited. I absolutely fell in love with everyone I interviewed with. I'm going to be in their. Oh, I was going to say the names of the programs. So I'm really grateful because they only accept one person for their dual diagnosis track.
Nice, lovely.
Yeah,
look at how special you are.
I feel very special.
Exactly.
I could not be more grateful. I'd be studying. And working among people whose work I've followed for a really long time.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm overjoyed. I'm like surrounded by people who are like leaders in addiction.
Academicians.
Yeah. Well, people who've committed their lives to studying addiction and finding, suitable treatments. And what I love the most about the program overall is that it takes psychosocial factors into account when conceptualizing cases. And to say that differently, it's like they're thinking about. To say that differently, they're thinking they're thinking about the whole person, and that's one of the things that was really striking to me throughout the interviews was that everyone I spoke to was undeniably brilliant and undeniably connected and aware and an authority on evidence-based treatment, but they were also able to talk about like the full human and the full human experience and
Nice.
like all the different intersectioning identities. And I was like, oh my God, I want to be here so bad. So I'm really grateful. Thank you for asking.
Right on. Well, good. I'm glad. Oh my God, it's like so much has happened.
I know.
I love. Okay, so we're Virgos.
We are Virgos.
Constantly mentioning that or whatever. But I was looking at a clip on TikTok or whatever, and I don't know if you remember, and I'm speaking about Beyonce and winning the Grammy and the Grammy for country music.
Yeah.
Okay, so I saw a clip of her performance with the Dixie Chicks, or the tour, the Chicks now, at the CMA.
They changed their name?
Yeah.
What are they now?
The Chicks.
Oh, okay.
They're just Chicks. They take the Dixie part out.
Yeah.
But they performed at the CMAs, and people, that was where it all started, where folks, she wasn't really welcomed by for a lot of the
country music scene.
And so somebody was saying, you know, that was Beyonce's villain origin story, because she then left there and said, I'm going to show you guys, did her research like she does, like she's apt to do, and created, in my mind, because I absolutely love that album, created an amazing album that did deserve to win, even though she deserved, everybody else deserved to win. And then to win Best Country Album, that is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And the children are up in arms.
Of course.
It's not country. But what they're not understanding is that album is exactly about what they're complaining about. She's telling a story and really kind of reminding people of the history of that genre. And the best thing that can happen?
What?
After the smoke settles and everything, more musicians will see, you know what, you don't have to stay sandwiched in. You can be creative. You're a creative.
Yeah.
Like genre, whatever. It's like race being a construct. Genre is a construct, you know? There's Anyway, I
appreciate it. Yeah.
And I've just been tickled pink, along with the fuck around and find out phase of like,
oh
everything
my God. Yeah.
Well, you know what's interesting? It's like, okay, so you have individuals who, during the election, they made a decision for themselves that they could not support a candidate who, you know, because the policies supported genocide, and you can respect that, you know, but then they had to take it a step further and say, and constantly I was seeing videos saying, you know, if you support her, then you are this.
Yeah.
If you do this, then you are this or whatever. And we are going to do everything we can to make sure she doesn't get elected. This is clear. A lot of people don't understand our system. It is unfortunate that, you know, there's only two choices, but that is the nature of what it is.
Yeah.
And so individuals were making decisions because genocide was important. It was important. It's like, and just because you were making a decision to vote for her doesn't mean that you know, it's not that black and white.
Yeah.
There are so many other things that needed to be addressed. But to hear folks say, and we constantly heard it, you know what, we don't care, deal with it, whatever, we're going to do everything to make sure she's not in. And now we have what we have. Yep. And people are on there. And some of those people that were saying, don't vote for her no matter what, are wondering where like the black people are. And there's a lot of black people saying, you know, we're taking a break because we told you. And it's not that we're telling you so, but it's like, we told you what would happen, and now we're stepping back. And I made a video, and I was just like, the thing is, it's like we just have lost trust.
Yeah. Because
you prop our black and brown bodies up when you need us, and then you, for lack of a better word, shit all over us. And now they want us to come back and be a part of the process. And I had heard people saying, well, where's Kamala now? Kamala Harris is a private citizen right now. And she gets to participate as much or as little in this process as you want, but I'm almost certain she's going to participate a lot more than some people. Yeah. So I'm sorry, I got a little...
No.
But it was like, it fired me up, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I won't say too much about it. I mean, this captured a lot of it.
This is the most that I've said. Like, I have made it a point. I made it a point, and I think that we've talked about this. I mean, it was a quote from Donna had said, like, was it Angela Davis was saying, it's like, when I was saying, it's like, I don't talk about things because I don't feel like I have enough information. And she said, that's not a good enough reason.
Yeah.
And it's like, I stepped back because I didn't know enough, but not because I didn't want to talk about it, but because it's like, I didn't want to step on anybody's toes. Like, I really feel like, that's what it's about. For me, if you were someone who decided that you weren't going to vote, that's the only time I have the problem. But making a decision, you at least participated in the process. Yeah. Other than that, if you decided to keep your vote away, then you don't get to participate in this conversation right now. Maybe later. Yeah,
and now now is like it's an important time for people to take care of themselves.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like healing, and it's a reminder too that this is fresh.
Right.
So it's not going to It's not going to all of a sudden. This might take some time.
Yeah, we're just a few weeks in.
Yes, exactly.
Geez.
Okay.
So let's transition.
Yes.
All right. So we're in the middle of our series on the 4 agreements. So if you're just chiming in, if you're just tuning into this episode, the 4 agreements is a book written by Don Miguel Ruiz.
There you go again with that. I just got all excited. I had to take my coat off.
So this book has been a game changer for a lot of people in recovery, in queer spaces. And it's a book about just trying to move through the world with more peace. And so far we've covered the first 2 agreements. We've talked about be impeccable with your word, which is all about using your words to build rather than destroy. And then we've also talked about don't take anything personally. Don't take anything personally, which, helps us remember that other people's actions are not about who? Us.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then today we're going to be talking about the 3rd agreement, which is we might not be the one that it causes the most unnecessary, which actually, what I want to say is it might cause the most unnecessary harm, which is don't make assumptions.
Oh God! And everything that I was just ranting about tied into people's assumptions about why folks do what they do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, yes, but making assumptions is it's human nature.
Oh,
we
absolutely.
do it all the time without realizing it. And the problem is that it leads us to create, assumptions that lead to misunderstandings and resentment and like straight up suffering.
Like, how many times have you had a fucking conversation with somebody else without them participating? Because in your mind, you know exactly. Yeah, right. You don't know what I'm going to say.
Right. So why do we make assumptions? Why do you think we make assumptions?
Well, I feel like we bring with us experience, and whether or not I think with that experience, sometimes we kind of lock people into a certain like. So if I have an experience with you or someone who reminds me of you, of course I may have trauma around it. Maybe not the extreme trauma around it. And so I'm thinking, this is how it happened last time. So why am I going to put myself? I'm just going to. For me, I don't know about you, but I've always. And I'm trying to get better with this, but I've always kind of, I don't like surprises like that.
Yeah.
I want security. And so I've always play the tape out in my head, not in a healthy way, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, do you know what I'm getting at?
I do know. Yeah. I mean, what you're describing are like assumptions are protective.
Yeah, no, exactly.
They're, our brains like to make shortcuts. And that's so that
especially when it comes to like reaching out to someone you might be attracted to.
Yeah.
Like
because
we don't like dealing with rejection,
right? So assumptions help us kind of like fill in the gaps so that we don't have to do so much guesswork. But what's interesting about making an assumption is that assumptions tend to be based on fears rather than reality, right? Would you agree?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So we assume because we don't want to be vulnerable and ask for clarity.
Oh God.
Okay. Asking for clarity when you want to.
Yeah, because clarity, when somebody tells you, although the worst, what I will say, is like, I absolutely hate it. And I've had this experience in the past. There was this guy I was really into a long time ago when it was around, I want to say 1990, 2000.
Okay.
I was so attracted to him. I ended up getting a job just because he was working at the place.
Stop.
But I mentioned to him.
Stop.
I mentioned to him, I told him that I was interested in him. I was very clear about it. And he was not able to be clear about if he was interested in me or not. It was one of those things where,
I do know. Yeah.
And so nowadays, I mean, I'd rather you tell me the words exactly so that there's no kind of doubt or no slither of hope. I don't want any doors to be left open. Yeah. No cracks in the door, because it's like, that's what I'm doing. There's hope.
Yeah. I think that I love that you're bringing up that example, because I feel like making assumptions happen a lot in relationships. So even if you're like, you can be with like a long-term partner and make assumptions, right? Or you can make assumptions about like people you see on the street, or like you can make assumptions about a text message that you received, right?
And that's a big one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's a big one, because it's like I can't tell what your tone is. And I've had it happen more often, and I don't do this anymore, but I've had it happen more often where I joke or I'm sarcastic with someone who I don't have that relationship with, and then they read it the wrong way. Like, I have close friends who know me and know how I am, and so those are the only times now that I will, like, especially on text. And so I'm not a big fan of texting.
Yeah, I know.
My thing is like texting for me is great. Like, hey, I'm running late, but it's like there's some people that are so good at like that. Like, I can't do that.
Yeah, I'm a kind of a long text person.
No, and I appreciate it. I get the information and I'm able to. But usually I'll be texting with somebody and they have a whole novel and I have a few words.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Yeah. Whatever, bitch.
Well, I think in like recovery spaces, especially if like someone is like new in a recovery space, is like assuming people are judging you or like, assuming people are judging you or assuming people don't want to help you or assuming that you're a burden to other people.
I always tell people, you know what? So they are judging you. What are we going to do? Because it's like we're powerless over that.
Right.
Like that's something that's human nature.
That takes a long time to get to.
Yeah, that's something that exactly.
That takes a long time to get to.
And for me, it's like I'm always like, I want to add a little levity to it because it is serious business.
Yeah.
I don't want to dismiss that, what a person is feeling, but I also want to say it's true. They probably are. But what if they aren't? Because I think the reality is most of the time we're in our own world.
Yeah. Yeah.
I used to when I first, before I understood that crystal meth was affecting my psychic and making me a little paranoid, I used to look up and I would see somebody and they'd be looking at me just the same right time, and probably not even looking at me looking this way, but I would jump to conclusions, say they're talking shit about me. And so I think about that as an extreme case, but that's how it is. It's like I'm in my own world. I look up for just a second and we happen to make eye contact and you think I'm talking shit about you, or you think that I give a shit about you, or you think whatever. And the reality is I just looked up and I'm a bobblehead and whatever.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of things here, right? So I want to go back to the assumption, the part about like being into someone. Yeah. And it's like, there's this idea, I think, like, for example, when it comes to, like, say, romantic relationships or dating, they're not into me because of X, right? Like, and I think like the easy one would be like, they're not into me, like they're not attracted to me, and then assumptions made about what that means or like why they're not attracted to you.
Absolutely. You jump to conclusions.
Yeah,
it's because I'm black.
Yeah,
nonsense like that.
I mean, it could be that, right?
It could
but here's the thing. What I'm trying to get at here is the assumptions that are made and treated like fact. But let me explain. So let's say it's race, for example. Well, they're not into me because I'm Latino, right? Let's say that, right? And then I can make an assumption about what that means, right? When it could just be actually, people's kind of ideas, like preferences, etc. Like that's informed by so many different variables, right? And we can talk about like, what bodies got to be sexualized because of racism and oppression. We can have that conversation, but we don't have to get wrapped up in committing to one story about why something is happening because we cannot know, right? And that's like one of the biggest assumptions.
And there's some arrogance in that too.
Yeah, of course.
Like, why don't you like me? You should like me. It's like which is nonsense.
Yeah. And I feel, And even like when relationships end, right? Like assumptions about what that means, right? Yeah. There is this kind of like playing God, this kind of like predicting the future. Yeah. So that's what that reminded me of. Yeah.
When newcomers come in, I don't know if you've experienced this, but it's like we do this thing where we try to love you and support you and like we invite you to fellowship or we invite you to have coffee so we can talk to you, and instantly you think, you're trying to get my
You're trying to get him.
Well, because it's like, it's what's happened before. I'm
Right.
only
Right.
going on what I know, and so
Yeah.
you usually.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Assumptions, I would be willing to say.
I
are,
usually do this.
like,
I usually do this thing when I first initially start working with a sponsee. I will sit down and I make it clear, I'm not your banker. I'm not this, that, whatever. And I also say I'm not going to try to sleep with you very clearly as I'm trying to sleep with them.
oh my God.
I don't do that. That is not cute.
What I was going to say is that I think assumptions are generally made from the past.
Yeah.
It's like when we allow ghost to inform like what we see in the present. And there's like I like what you said, that there's something about it that's kind of like egocentric.
Yeah.
That it's like this assumption about, here's an example. I had met this guy who I thought was like absolutely beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And he, like, I later learned, like, thinks he's incredibly unattractive and all this other stuff. And I was like, oh my God, really? Like, this is,
slap him across the
I'm
head.
like, what are you talking about? You're beautiful. So there's this like assumption that we know like how people see us all the time, or this idea that we can like control how people see us, and we just can't.
No, not at all.
We absolutely cannot. And assumptions, I think they hurt relationships.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's number one. I think I try to operate from a place that it's unfair for me to assume that I know what somebody's going to say and not give them an opportunity to show me. Like, it's kind of like when we are at the place where we need to come out to the people that we love, and we assume that they might respond in a way that is not positive or whatever. And sometimes they do, and sometimes they surprise us. Like, I feel like usually it's the ones. I was pretty fortunate. I don't know about you, but I was pretty fortunate. I didn't have anybody turn away or make me feel less than because I finally, they were just like, we were waiting for you, bitch. I was looking for.
Yeah. Oh, I think I put this on wrong. That's. I mean, I even had that recently. I had this idea of how I would hear about this one particular postdoc, and I had this like fantasy in my head, and it didn't happen that way.
Who were you?
I just,
you were in a bubble bath. It's like
I saw
bubble bath.
No, I saw. Well, it's so interesting because I saw myself driving to work, getting the call while I was on the road, having to pull over. I thought it would be this like specific person.
This bitch is dramatic.
Yeah.
I was like, I thought I was going to have to pull over and cry.
We're going to pull over and cry.
And then break into song.
But instead, I'm so sad.
Where were you at when
I found out? So it's interesting how I found out. I was sitting
on the toilet
at my desk. No, I was at my desk and I saw an email come up with the school's emblem. And
I know it happens to be your screensaver.
It's now the screensaver of my phone.
I love it.
So I saw it come up and it said, Anthony, this is just a follow-up email to so-and-so's phone call. Let us know if you like accept the client or want to put us on hold or something like this. And I was like, what the fuck? Who called me? And so I looked at my phone and I saw that I had missed this call. And so then I called him back without listening to the voicemail. And like we talked and he was getting in his car and it was like, and then even my reaction, I couldn't have predicted how I reacted. I like stumbled and I was like, I'm overjoyed, but I don't know how to say that right now. And so I had like this.
That was real.
Yeah. And so, but here's, I made all these assumptions about how it would happen or, and I just feel like it's, here's what I want to say is that I think assumptions, like you were saying earlier, like they help make us feel safe. Yeah. But sometimes
you said that I said something to that effect, but you beveled it down. You kind of glossed it over and shine and put a coat of shellac over it.
Shellac. Well, because let's think about recovery, right? So for many of us, it's like we went to hell and back, right? And so we were trying to survive while we were drinking and using. And so you get sober, or you work on recovery, or whatever that looks like for you, and you're still thinking in a survival state.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, you're still trying to protect yourself from all the things that were happening before. And that could predate your drinking, right? It could be like, family dynamics. You know what I mean? But
if the people, like the worst is the people that you relied on for trust, for love or whatever, was not showing up and doing that. How can you not expect
100%, 100%? And so part of, I think kind of like the thing that I could tell the person who is struggling, what I wish maybe someone would have told me, or maybe I don't even know if I could have heard it, which is like, relax.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Just relax. Like, just stop fighting.
I think the best bit of advice that I've got is to surround myself with people that I trust.
Yeah.
Like if because it's going to take a while, and maybe there are people that you gravitate towards, and then who allow you to just be.
Well, that's what I was getting at. It's like when I say relax, I don't mean like, hey, knock it off, stop having your feelings.
I know, because relax can be fighting words for some people.
What I mean is like, just be where you are.
Yeah.
Right. My sponsor, when I was like years ago in first in recovery, she said to me, Anthony, why are you trying to be like somewhere you're not? Like, you literally just decided a few days ago that you were going to not stop drinking and using. Like, why do you think that, like, you know what I mean? Like, why are you? Yeah. And she just said, like, just be where you are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you're a couple days in, just be there.
Yeah, that's another thing. Okay, so some other assumptions that I've had to struggle with. Like, I remember I used to, if you were ever in any meetings with me, I always blamed my inability to cry over the fact that I was taking Celexa. I was taking like an antidepressant, and it had whatever. Turns out I'm just not a crier. But I was assuming that I needed to behave a certain way to show the emotions that I needed to feel.
But you're speaking to my heart. Yes.
The reality of it is that the whole time, even through that, I was feeling what I was feeling. It's just, it wasn't looking. It's kind of like with grieving. People, like, there's so many different ways to grieve, and sometimes it doesn't show up in sadness.
Yeah, you are speaking to my heart. Yeah, because that's something I've dealt with that my whole life, where people might think like, well, you don't seem very warm, or you don't seem X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, number one, you don't know me well enough.
Get out my business.
Yeah. You don't know me well enough. Like, I do have feelings.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And like, and they show up in different spaces with different people, so you can't make assumptions about like my internal experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We can't about anyone.
And
actually.
the thing too that I've been learning through this process, the podcast, through connecting with folks and whatever, is not to make assumptions about what kind of trauma people are going through.
Yeah.
Like, I was talking to this woman, like, she had a dog that was really kind of jittery or whatever. And I've made it a point, and this has everything to do with the fact that I have people who have dogs who are jittery. I didn't go up to I usually ease into it. And that's how I try to ease into like relationships. Although I'm still struggling with the idea of consent, but
oh my God. No, he's not. No, he's not. So let's talk a little bit about like, how do we get out of making assumptions? And I think one of the best ways to do that is by asking instead of assuming, right? Like,
a closed mouth will not get fed.
Yeah. Like, rather than think like, are you talking about behind my back?
I know exactly.
Maybe that's not the best example, but
that's a start, because when you're figuring stuff out, when you're learning how to be better at something, it's messy in the beginning.
Yeah, you can.
And I might get all ghetto and come at you with a switchblade and say, "What did you say? I thought I heard you say something about me."
Yeah, for everyone listening, Louis doesn't carry a switchblade.
I do. I carry it in my wig.
Yeah, you might just say like, hey, I want to make sure I understand this. Can you clarify what you meant by X, Y, and Z?
I love it.
Yeah, like, hey, when you said that, like, did you mean X, Y, and Z?
Or a really good one like that I struggled with is like, the other day when I saw you, you were a little short with me, and I'm wondering, were you going through something? Because and maybe it had nothing to do with me, but I was feeling some sort of way.
Yeah, or even like, I mean, you go about your life the way you want to go about your life. I was just thinking like, well, because I'm like, was I short? Like, I'm thinking like, if you were to, no. I know, but I'm just saying like, if you were to say that to me, I'm like, was I short with you? And so I think I don't know. I don't know why I got snagged on that. I'm like, well, we're making an assumption that someone was being short with us when they could have maybe
or
not.
and you know maybe it's not that you were short
Or maybe
with
we're
me.
sticking to ice
Maybe it's
statements.
not that you were I felt as though you were short with me, and that probably wasn't the situation.
Yeah.
That probably wasn't the case, and I just wanted to make sure everything was okay.
Yeah, and I think part of that too is like this is the hard part, which is sitting with the discomfort of not filling in the blanks, right? Because we might be making an assumption to like help us process or deal with something, when really actually we might be making it worse. So like just learning how to like sit with being uncomfortable.
I talk to my sponsor a lot about stuff before like I just go off in, because sometimes it's just that. It's that I need to be comfortable sitting with the blank space. It's like, it's about me and where I was in that moment and has nothing to do with the other person.
Yeah. Oh my God, Louis. So we played a Blood on the Clock Tower yesterday.
I'm sorry.
At the Castro Country Club.
I know. That's why I came up and whispered to you.
Was that you?
That was me. Yes.
Didn't you hear me? I was like, who was that?
I know. You
and then you left.
MGM. It's like, and I slipped out of there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I saw you.
Stupid. What did you say? You're like, this is boring.
No, I said, I don't know what I said. I didn't say it was.
It was hilarious.
No, but I just whispered something. I don't remember what I did.
So it was you. So yeah, there was someone there, and this is my first time playing with them, and I did not like the way they played. Like, not because one of the things that makes it really difficult about like playing a game like Blood on the Clock Tower is that there are a lot of different rules. There's a lot of stuff to keep track of.
This is why you don't see me there.
Yeah, and this person just would like get into this person would just get into arguments with everyone for no reason, and I was like, oh man, I can't, like, you're ruining this game for me. I think I'm bringing that up because there was a part of me, you know what, I think I was making assumptions, and I'm like, oh, he's behaving this way because he's like self-centered and because he's ratchet. Because he wasn't raised right.
Do you get along with him outside of the game?
No. Outside of the game, he kind of weirds me out, actually.
Okay, so it might be.
He makes me uncomfortable.
Might be your experience with him, so it's like he didn't have a chance.
Yeah, I mean, he did say something that, and let me be like real here. So he does make me uncomfortable, but it's because I've heard him say some like really questionable things where I'm like, oh, I don't know that. But this is not, we're not the most healthy people.
Not at all.
But yeah, he said some things that were like, I was like, that sounds illegal and also very questionable. And
that
like,
sounds illegal. It's like,
why are you saying that in front of?
I'm so down.
Yeah.
I'm so down. It's like,
yeah, it was anyway. So, but yeah, I made all these assumptions, but there was a moment where he had shared about his feeling incompetent at the game, but it was very brief. And I was like, oh, maybe that's what's happening here. Like, maybe he's overcompensating and like, this is what it looks like. And Anthony, you should have more empathy here. And
then he slipped right back into that.
And then he slipped right back.
Girl, you had me for a minute.
You had me for a minute until you started yelling at me. So yeah, asking rather than assuming, and then like learning how to sit with that discomfort.
Exactly.
By
it's
not
like
filling in the blanks.
when you hear something and it's not what you want to hear, you need to.
Yeah. And sometimes sitting with discomfort, and maybe all times, but like you don't have to sit alone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can find somebody else to sit in that discomfort with.
There's something about like when the more times you experience it, when you sit with it or whatever, the easier that it becomes, because you could sort of normalize things. In every life, the rain's got to fall. Things are always going to be rosy.
Yeah.
And it's not the end of the world. I think that's the problem with us. It's like
you and me.
No, I say
people in recovery.
When they say we don't know the difference between a bad day or the end of the world.
Yeah, girl. Preach.
Yeah, so it's like I'm all. This is going to pass, just like happiness. Everything passes.
Yeah. So how about, because here's the other thing is like, how do we respond to assumptions that people make about us? Right? Especially like when you are in like LGBTQ plus spaces or like recovery or mental health. If you have mental health issues, is like certain assumptions that people may make about you.
Well, I feel like this is where we can't bite like what people think about me is none of my business, because I've had a lot of people, after we get to know each other, say that I was probably not as warm or open, and I take it in, because what I've been able to do now that I have a little more time is use it to kind of work at modifying my behavior sometimes, because there are times where I am not so smiley or not so friendly or whatever, and I don't realize that I'm doing it. And, it's not that I need to change for them, but I want to change for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. I mean, and yes. And the other thing is that we don't have to, when people make assumptions about you, those are not things you need to internalize, and you can establish what boundaries.
Absolutely. Then when they say, well, I thought you were, yes. And blah, 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 and.
Yeah. Well, you know what this reminds me of? It was a conversation I had with a mutual friend of ours a few years ago. I think this is a good example of this, actually. He was like, hey, can we talk? And we sat down to talk, and he said, did I tell you about this, Louis? When he was like, Anthony, you have a way of making people feel like they're the center of your world. And I'm like, wait, how are you speaking for other people? But what he was saying is that I made him feel like he was the center of my world. Okay. So
that was a beautiful thing, huh?
Well, yeah, I'm I listen, and
I'm present, bitch. It's you've never experienced that.
Yeah, I'm present. And I was like, well, I'm glad you've had that experience with me. And then he said, and you have a way of just dropping people. And I said, okay, so-and-so, I can understand, I can, listening to you, I can understand why you've kind of connected the dots in the way that you have, but that's not my experience.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, that's not my experience. That's not how I experience this relationship. That's not how I function in the world. Old me would have taken that on and thought oh my God, what did I do wrong? There's something, clearly I did something wrong. And I'm like, no, I know who I am. And I know that that's not how I function.
Yeah.
So fast forward, we were walking, and he returned back to it. And I said to him, I said that I can see why you connect the dots that you do, but I'm reminding you that is not my experience. Mm-hmm. I'm not co-signing what you just said about me, that I just drop people. I'm not going to do that, and that was a boundary I had to
absolutely
to set, right?
That same thing happens can happen to individuals early on, and then later on. I mean, because we have mutual friends who disappear. Who are really kind of in your life, and really kind of,
and you love them, and they're where do they go?
And early on, I made it about me, and now they're doing what they need to do. You know how I combat that? The time that I get to spend with you, I'm grateful for it.
That's right.
Absolutely.
I love that. I saw, yes, Louis, I saw this, I think it was a TED Talk, but there was this woman, brilliant. She was talking about what makes having friends as an adult difficult. And she said, well, there are 3 things that we have to do. I think I remember these 3 things. One of the things is she said, we have to let people come and go. Because that's just what adulthood feels like. We have to let people come and go. We have to appreciate the time we have with people. Mm-hmm. And we can't make assumptions about why people are coming and going.
Yeah, exactly.
We can't take that stuff personally. Right. It's there are some people, my best friend, he lives in New York. And I remember when he left, it was really hard for me. Now he's he has this girlfriend, and now he's really consumed by his relationship. And it was really hard for me because he was such a big part of my life, and he left. And I was why aren't we texting all the time anymore? And why aren't we? And that was a part where I was Anthony, you have to let that go. He's on the other side of the country. He's, in a relationship, and I'm in a relationship too. And so the second I let that go, I'm oh, I can actually just show up for this relationship. I can just be in the relationship when we have it. So yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Just letting people come and go.
Yeah. No. And really it helped me because I realized that I some of my addictive personality I was putting it on relationships because I don't spend time with a lot of people, but when I spend time, I love people. I love you.
I love you.
I see you, and I like spending time with you.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
But it would be that I was so used to, I would see you this, and this, or whatever. And if that didn't happen, I would no, what's going on? And now it's I also realize I like to go home and decompress.
A lot of us
and
do.
Be around nobody. And so I always say to myself, why wouldn't somebody else have their own rituals or things that they do? And I get to respect that.
Yeah. And letting go of assumptions is another way of letting go of control, right? Because that's what assumptions are. Assumptions are about trying to control uncertainty.
Did you say control?
Yeah.
Control.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking work. I'm in the process of working on that.
Because assumptions are about controlling, and what happens when we stop doing that? What happens when we let go? And, there's also another way of thinking about it, the power of curiosity. So approaching people with questions instead of like conclusions.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're about getting ready to land the plane.
I know. It's wild. It's like this. Wow. We were just like in this.
Yeah, we were just in it.
In this.
Yeah. What I was thinking about was like, I don't have the script ready for how to close the
So keep talking.
We should, it's so interesting because we have the script at the very top. What it is because the last part, the outro script, I think that's like the one that changed or something like that.
Yeah,
so I was just thinking about how like it wasn't ready, and right now I'm just buying us time.
Yeah.
So
the Castro, exactly. The Castro Country Club is a safe and sober community center for all people and a refuge for the LGBTQ recovery community.
We provide programs and services that help change lives by supporting personal growth.
And our vision is to reduce the suffering of addiction by connecting people to community, opportunity, and support.
You can find more information, including all the ways to contact us at www.castrocountryclub.org/podcast.
And look for new episodes every Monday.
Every Monday.
And absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, that.
We absolutely love you. And I think this is the turbulence. We're like,
Exactly.
Yeah, did we do all of it?
We did all of that.
Yeah, we did all of that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And stay tuned for our next episode, which is, I think, what's the next one? I think it's Always Do Your Best. That's our next episode.
Exactly.
So stay tuned for our next episode on the last agreement, which is always do your best.